Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from.
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
We struggled, as to strike.
The Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
A very good morning to you. Thank you for staying with us on Global Television. I'm Muyi Agumofwegbe, welcoming you to Global Morning. It's a great Wednesday, midweek as it is called. And then, of course, it's another wonderful opportunity to have conversations around topical issues, political, economic, social, and everything else right in the middle of it. For a country like Nigeria that has so much to battle with every other day across board, end to end, on many levels, it's only normal and natural that we continue to lend our voices to all of these issues. There are 3 off-cycle elections scheduled for just weeks ahead of us. We have Kogi, Imo, and of course Bayelsa governorship elections. We've seen the developments coming out of these 3 different states from different regions, or if you like, zones of the country. Of course, in Imo, southeast, in Kogi, north central, and then Bayelsa, south. Now, what does it all say? We're seeing concerns around whether or not INEC will show competence, whether or not the elections, all 3 of them across 3 states, will be free, fair, transparent, and credible. Concerns around whether or not political parties and the candidates they produced will behave themselves, stick with the rules of the game, whether it's the ground norm, the constitution, or the extant laws and provisions, the Electoral Act 2022, or the guidelines by INEC specifically formulated for the purpose of these elections. There have been arguments, for instance, supporting the theory that it's far easier to conduct off-cycle elections. Reasons, for example, being one, according to those who propound this argument, that it's cheaper because it's just one election per time, unlike when you have the general election. They also argue that it makes it easier for INEC to focus on one spot, to be able to be, for want of better words, thematic about how they conduct these elections, again, as opposed to the general 4-year cycle election. And then the other is that political parties are also able to put in their best in terms of investing their time, being able to strategize, mobilize resources, and so on and so forth. When elections were held in places like Ondo and Osun the other time, INEC said it was going to be some sort of litmus test, particularly for the Electoral Act. The question, as we'll be asking on the program today, is to what extent was that test conducted? I mean, what is the result of that test? Is the electoral process in Nigeria, are the elections themselves, the outcomes now better today than they were in 2019? Should INEC alone be blamed for all of the anomalies, all of the irregularities and infractions that we see associated with electoral processes? What more can INEC do to be able to better improve, significantly improve on our electoral process? Vote buying, for example, has been a monster closely intertwined with electoral process. How do we also run cycles? How do we surmount that, whether from the standpoint of the political parties themselves or from those who conduct the elections, chief amongst them being INEC? How about security during elections? How do we deal with all of the violence that we see at polling units? For instance, those who have been fingered, those who have been indicted, have they been prosecuted? Are they being prosecuted? Will they be prosecuted? Is our electoral process better today than it was in 1999 when this experiment, as some people call it, of democracy started 24 years down the line? We hope to find answers to all of these questions in the course of our conversation today. But before that happens, we want to look at the papers for you and bring you big headlines. Do stay with us. We'll take off with the Punch newspaper for you quickly, but first above the nameplate, 3 headlines. One with the picture of President Bola Tinubu. Tinubu ministers face first assessment January. That's barely 3 months away. Protesters storm National Assembly, oppose EFCC chair's confirmation. Why I want 550 million naira damages for compulsory retirement ex-DIG. 35,000 naira wage award. Labour gives governors ultimatum. 61 million Nigerians to get 1 trillion naira. All right. We have riders associated with the headline. Ultimatum given by NLC TUC applicable to states. Kano, Gombe, NLC chapters, others. 15 million households to get 25,000 naira monthly. Program will reduce poverty, says World Bank. But then there have been arguments against that proposition, saying that handing people money, or what some persons call handouts, doesn't necessarily take them out of poverty. What it does for them, it makes their minds lazy over time. They become dependent, they become reliant, they begin to develop this sense of entitlement. But again, there's also the school of thought that believes that when you give people this sort of relief, so to speak, it helps them to cushion the impact of the removal of fuel subsidy payments as it is in this immediate case. And then they are able to be a bit more focused. They are able to take care of their immediate needs, whatever those may be, essentials, all right, and then shoot for something for the medium and longer term. But ultimately, the grand argument, which enjoys a lot of, if you like, unanimity, is that government will have to be proactive for the longer term. Government will have to be responsible. Government will have to be sincere. Government will have to be results-oriented. Government must have its eye on the ball beyond elections, which also means that now that subsidy has been taken away, government must understand that people will suffer naturally. I mean, this is not the time to be euphemistic about some of these things. And as such, government has a responsibility, a duty of care for the masses, because this is something, I mean, the fuel subsidy regime is something they had been used to for years. So once you snap it out of place, it's only natural that there will be very drastic consequences. So the question is, while you may not be able to altogether, I mean 100% address those issues that will come up on account of this removal, government must be able to make the people see the sincerity of purpose that it brings to the table by ensuring that practical solutions by way of solving the problems associated with fuel subsidy payment removal are provided, and the everyday Nigerian can see that, whether in form of a new road constructed for them or an old road rehabilitated. It can also be in form of a new, who knows, maybe healthcare facility, some sort of school in a community. But there must be some value that government along that line, maybe access to capital for startups and so on and so forth. Government knows what to do. But the question is, will government bring willpower to the table, Will government hold people accountable, especially when it comes to how public finances are managed? Will government give Labour enough reason to trust it? Will Labour also understand the realities, the tough realities that government is dealing with at a time such as this? So these are questions we must sincerely and wholeheartedly answer in the days, weeks, months, and who knows, maybe years ahead. But we have a couple of more stories to look at here on the front page of today's Punch newspaper. 14 injured as 2 BRT vehicles collide in Lagos. That's an anomaly because from the way the tracks are designed, one would have thought it's near impossible for 2 BRT buses to collide in Lagos, but that is exactly what has happened. And we are hearing now that 14 persons sustained injuries in that accident. Okay, so let's look at the right end of the front page of the Punch newspaper this morning. Free Israeli hostages, France, Turkey urge Hamas. Details of that story are on page 7 of the Punch newspaper. Ondo lawmakers meet Ganduje, suspend Ayedatiwa impeachment. That sounds like a political solution being proffered now as against the other route that the stakeholders themselves, whether the governor, Akeredolu, or the State House of Assembly in Akure, all right, we're going to use. But then we understand that a solution has been proffered. At least we have been told that that impeachment process has been suspended. Many feared killed as Oyo security agents headers clash. Okay, but we have other papers to look at. The Guardian is our next port of call this morning. All right, big story says INEC credibility. Okay, there's a focus to that. It says 2023 elections by court order. INEC's credibility sinks as 94% contested posts awaits tribunal. Uproar in Senate, Akpabio and Ndume face of guest Messiah. What's the issue with Akpabio and Ndume? You can read it up on page 6. But in the meantime, the senator who has been removed, the senator from Adamawa State now, who has been removed, Senator Abo, also accuses the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, of being the one behind his predicament. You will have to read all those stories because time will fail us to bring you all those details this morning in the course of the show. But a few more headlines from the Guardian newspaper. It says budget report shows states heavily dependent on federal allocation for budgets. Okay, and then discordant tunes persist over legality of appointing ministers of states. Inflation may deter investors from rice issue as 6 firms raise 22 billion naira. Tinubu begins 1.125 trillion naira conditional cash transfers to 15 million households. House probes 183.9 billion naira COVID intervention fund. Subsidy, no alternative to local refining capacity. Are we building that capacity? Are refineries working today? We have 4, we understand. However, we have been told 1 will be working by end of the year. That's the mandate that the president has given to those who are responsible, all right, for fixing our refineries. But whether or not that happens, we can't take our eye off the fact that until our refineries are working, until we're able to refine our own crude back at home, I mean, locally, it means we are doing our best lip service to the issue of strengthening the naira, to the issue of getting more foreign exchange, to deal with issues around infrastructure, challenges that cut across all segments of critical Nigerian life. Okay. We're taking a quick break now. When we return, you'll meet my guest. We'll put our conversation on the road and hopefully we'll take some more look at the papers for you.